Okay, good evening, all of you. Okay, I was expecting some to unmute and say good evening. It's okay. Anyways,
Good
um,
evening, sir.
good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. So here we are today. We have Dr. Soundarya. I'll give a little brief about her before she starts the session. So Dr. Iyer is the social scientist. She is interested in interdisciplinary approaches to the study of agrarian change and the livelihoods. She was recently the Sir Ratan Tata Postdoctoral Fellow at the London School of Economics and Political Science, UK. She is currently the Assistant Professor at RVU University, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. She is also Associated Researcher at the French Institute of Pondicherry. She's also the co-investigator on a revisit village study on women's work in rural Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, which has been funded by Azim Premji University Research Funding Program 2019. Ma'am is going to be doing a discussion on environmental science. Ma'am, please, you can start. Thank you.
Good evening, all of you, and a very warm welcome. I have some slides to share with you, so I'm going to share my screen before we begin. Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so as Sir mentioned, my name is Soundarya, and I'm an assistant professor at RV University, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So today, first, I'm going to talk about myself, a bit of which Sir has already introduced to you, and then about our undergraduate degree in environmental science itself. So how did I get here? So I've spoken with some of you over the last couple of weeks during the admissions process. So you might have seen me, but you probably didn't have the chance to ask me what my own trajectory has been. So here I take this opportunity to actually tell you what my trajectory has been. So I did an undergraduate degree in Bombay in life sciences and biochemistry with a minor in environmental science. I was then an avid birder. So I was a member of the Bombay Natural History Society, and I used to go for all their nature walks and treks. I then went on to do my master's in molecular and human genetics at Banaras Hindu University. At this point, I was really interested in pursuing research and in doing my research in the sciences. So I worked at a few scientific laboratories in Bangalore whenever I got the opportunity. I also worked in evolutionary biology at the Evolutionary and Organismal Biology Unit at Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, which is a science institution in Bangalore. So the photograph you see at the bottom is actually me dissecting fruit flies, those flies that you see on your ripened fruits at home. So we were studying evolution in the lab. Somewhere during this period, I had a deep desire to actually get out of the lab and go on into the field. So the second photo you see is my next stage. So what I did is I worked with a social scientist at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, and then I decided to pursue my PhD in rural development. I was interested in villages then. So the photo you see is from a village very close to Bangalore, where I went on to do my PhD. And then I did my postdoc, as some of you might know, I did my postdoc at the Indian Institute for Human Settlements in a climate change project. So I was working with the environment. So the human and environment interface, that was my interest. And then I went on to the London School of Economics, as Sir mentioned already. And I'm working on women's work on a project in rural Karnataka. So my work with rural India continues till date. At RV, I am bringing together this knowledge in the sciences, my knowledge and my experience in the sciences and in the social sciences towards this undergraduate degree in environmental science. So now, let me ask you a very simple question. Why should you study environmental science? So some of the questions that I would ask you are some of these issues, do they concern you? So are you concerned about deforestation? Are you concerned about extraction of natural resources, climate change, agriculture, urbanization, pollution, biodiversity? If any of these make you feel even a little bit interested, or you have been thinking about these for a while, then maybe environmental science is the degree for you. I would say, in fact, that no educational degree is complete today without a serious study of the environment. With growing urbanization across the world and in India as well, and with the extraction of resources for energy, the increase in unsustainable agriculture, groundwater extraction and depletion, all of these have rendered our environment really fragile. We have further the threat of climate change. We have global warming. All of these issues you must be reading in the newspapers every day. So all of these are challenges to sustainable development in the global south. Now, the environment is something that touches everybody equally. It touches everybody. You can't say equally. It touches everybody, every person, irrespective of nationality, age, gender, your caste, your race, any other identity, you name it. Environment is something that impacts all of us. Yet the degradation of the environment impacts those who are worse off to a greater extent. So for instance, it would impact when there are floods, like Kerala had floods, when there's a cyclone, when the coastal population has cyclone. You see certain people getting impacted more than the others. And typically it's the poor who get impacted more, and various other identities who get impacted more. So when we'll study environmental science, we will get into these kind of nuances within the degree. Now, the next thing is why you should study environmental science. Are you interested in bridging diverse kinds of knowledges? So environmental science fundamentally is an interdisciplinary degree. It brings together diverse disciplines from ecology, biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, statistics. So these are the pure sciences, and as well as the social sciences from sociology, geography, economics, political science. So it brings together learnings from all of these because we are essentially studying the human and the environment interface. So therefore you need all these disciplines to really unpack. So are you interested in bridging these diverse knowledges? Then you must pursue a BSc in environmental science. Now, a traditional environmental science degree, like the one I had a life sciences degree with a minor in environmental science, but it was heavily biology focused because I didn't get the opportunity to study in a liberal education, the kind that RV now offers. This kind of education did not exist at that time in India. So there was a heavy focus only on the sciences. But now the advantage of studying environmental science in the liberal education framework is you have the ability to choose, mix, and create your own unique pathway. So now let's have a look at what kind of courses you would do at RV. So the environmental science at RV has, we have first the series of foundation courses in history, philosophy, literature, theater, critical thinking, in environment and development, South Asia, writing, principles of science, mathematical things. So across the board, we have foundation courses that are common to all students of RV in the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And then we have the core courses, which are taught over 3 years. Now, these are a blend of sciences and social sciences. So the kinds of subjects you would learn are ecology and evolution, biodiversity and conservation, energy and environment, environmental pollution, sustainable development, environmental economics, conservation society, political ecology, climate change, data science, statistics. This is just to give you a flavor of the kinds of courses. This doesn't exhaust all the kinds of courses that are on offer. Now, the advantage, the edge at RV University is that we also have a core course on documenting the environment. Now, there are environmental sciences and environmental studies degrees across the country in various liberal arts colleges. But this is something that only RV offers, a core course on documenting the environment via photography, film, and writing. So this is unique to the RV environmental science degree. Now, this will equip you for creative futures, which we'll come to again later at the end of this talk, I'll come to it. We also have various kinds of exposures for the students, such as the Explore India studentship, as well as internships, where you actually work with organizations and individuals in our networks who are working on either research projects or who are working in the implementation sector. So whichever it may be. So these are live projects that are actually ongoing, and you get a chance to engage with them. And then finally is the advantage of doing this degree in Bangalore, which is a unique, very, very unique advantage. One is that Bangalore is the science capital of the country. So you have opportunities to intern in the premier scientific educational institutions in Bangalore. Secondly is the opportunity to engage and get immersed in Bangalore's environmental history itself. Bangalore also has a huge number of very serious environmentalists who you will all get the chance to meet once you're at RV. They're teaching, they are working in various institutions across the city, and we have the opportunity to listen to them and to hear them. Thirdly, Bangalore, we will treat in our entire curriculum, we will treat Bangalore as our living laboratory. So we use the city and the region itself as a laboratory for both our projects, the kind of projects we'll do within the course, for producing knowledge as well as for action. So not everything is research. We might also work with people and see how we can do certain actions aimed towards sustainability. So these are all with the core courses, the major itself. Now, the benefit of liberal arts education is the diverse choice of minors itself that you might have. Within the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, within the School of Economics and Finance, and the School of Design. So with the environmental sciences major, you could mix and match courses with history, philosophy, literature, psychology, physics, theater and performing arts, film studies, economics, finance, marketing, as well as design. Now you'll see how this becomes useful in your career options itself. I'll show you certain pathways that a student might take after the undergraduate degree. So now I hope I've been able to convince you that through the RV University undergraduate in environmental science, you will gain theoretical knowledge through all the courses engaging with diverse disciplines. This will be combined with a grounded approach through field visits and laboratory work itself. And that comes together with the application of skills in mapping, writing, photography, film, data visualization, and programming. All of these produce the RVU Environmental Science undergraduate. And in fact, if I had the opportunity, this is the kind of undergraduate degree I would have done given my own trajectory, as I've already described to you. Now, a question that might be at the top of your head is, what are the kinds of career options? What do you do after the environmental science degree? So here are some career trajectories. The first one is obviously my own career trajectory. So you can get into research and teaching. Obviously, that means that you go on to do a master's, a post-graduation, and then you do your doctoral education, your PhD, and further research and all of that. And there are many disciplines to choose from. So you could be in agrarian studies as myself, or you could be in climate change adaptation, you could work in renewable energy, in conservation and society. So this is just a sample of the kinds of disciplines you might get into. Right after your bachelor's, you might decide you want to work, and you might get into an environmental NGO. It could be located in India. It could be an international NGO. It could be within the government itself. Now, the kind of work that you might do is to actually conduct environmental impact assessments of projects. So these could be, say, a hydroelectric dam is coming up, and you want to assess the impact of that on the environment. You could conduct capacity building programs. So these could be training training and teaching programs for policymakers, for other students. So you use the skills you have learned yourself at RV, and you train people, because in fact, climate change is such a new concept and new ideas globally. Many people at the policymaking level are still grappling with these terminologies. So there's a lot of scope in capacity building itself. Then you might be involved in implementation programs by the government, which are in the environmental sector. And also there is scope within environmental law and policy making itself. Another trajectory which is very common is data scientists getting into the corporate sector. And I can give you examples. I can link you up to people as well who have done this. Finally, there are environmental entrepreneurships. And this, of course, if you take minors with the School of Economics and Finance, you can really explore these kind of options, sustainable businesses for sustainable livelihood. So working with a lot of organizations, work with tribal people, work with rural people, and make various kinds of products and then market them outside. Ecotourism itself is an option. And finally, the creative edge that RV University really provides through the courses in documenting the environment and various other minors that you might take with the theater and performing arts or the film studies group. You could actually take on careers in environmental filmmaking and environmental photography and journalism writing. So with this, I'll end my talk today. Thank you all for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Folks, the forum is open. You can ask questions. You can post your questions in the chat box, or you can unmute and start.
Simran has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the presentation. So I'm actually new to learning about RV University's curriculum in environmental science. And I just had a few questions about course requirements from an application perspective. Can I apply with whatever subject combination I have in my 11th and 12th grade, or would that poses a problem?
I think, do you want to take that question, sir?
Simran, you'll have to repeat that question.
She's asking about her 12th combination of subjects. So suppose she hasn't taken sciences, for instance, is environmental science an option for her to take? Is that what, do I understand you correctly, yes. Simran?
Yes, ma'am. Because I have quite a different subject combination with 2 science subjects, so I was a little confused. Am I eligible to apply or not?
Yes, you are.
Thanks.
What is your combination, Simran, in the 12th?
I studied environmental science, mathematics, economics, and music.
So that's perfect. I think you'll be fine in the environmental science degree.
Great. Thanks. And can I ask another small question, if that's okay?
Sure, Simran.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I did understand your last slide on career pathways, but I was wondering, as I do go on to do my master's, what type of master's could I do? Say wildlife biology or conservation science. I just wanted to understand, since you've been through the process, what type of degrees I could pursue later on.
So there will be an option to do, I mean, the development degrees are always there. So development studies degrees. If you're interested in the wildlife biology degrees, those are also an option because you will be doing ecology, evolution courses, biodiversity conservation courses within the environmental science degree. So that also is potentially an option. So there are what other masters could, but again, the thing is that given that you're already branching out, it's an interdisciplinary degree. If you then choose to do a master's in the pure sciences, then that might be, I will have to check. And maybe this is something that we can actually do a bit of work and then get back to you on this later.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Right. Any other question? Next question, please. Anybody else has a question?
So my trajectory was from the sciences to the social sciences, if I might add, for Simran. So those are typically,
Okay. Piyush has responded. Irrespective of whatever formations students have taken until +2, they are equally eligible to get into offered liberal studies, major, minor at School of SOLS. So I think that question
this clears.
clear with everybody. Yeah, they'll understand.
Yeah, any combination of 12th subjects
Anything
is
12, yeah,
open.
makes them eligible for this course. Anybody else has
Yeah,
a
I guess.
yeah.
Yes, Sudhanva, your question has been answered by Dr. Piyush Roy, who is our dean.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions? Guys, you can turn on your videos and maybe, I've seen some of you before, so I know you. Fee structure and scholarship schemes.
Vivek, I'll share the copy to you. You can drop your email ID. I'll share you both fee structure and the scholarship scheme. Miss Rao, you have a question?
Hi, Mannat.
Okay, yeah, Manat.
Good
Nice to
evening,
see
ma'am.
you.
Same here, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask that from the starting, I am not that much interested in sciences, but if I want to study environmental science and I take it as minors, so what will be the type of, how can you, like, how it how it will interest me? Because basically, I'm not at all interested in sciences. But
What is
if
the what is the major you're interested in psychology, right? If I remember correctly, or am I
n-
wrong?
no, ma'am, actually, I haven't decided my majors and
On the
minors
major,
yet.
fine.
Yes, yes. So I just wanted to ask about the environmental sciences. So, what will be another way that it can interest me? Because
If you want to
basically,
do
I'm
it
not
as
interested.
if you want to do it as a minor, so say you're
Yeah.
doing your suppose I'm just giving an example. Suppose you do your major in film studies, right? And you are interested in actually making films in the future, and then you decide, okay, fine, let me try out the environmental science as a minor, because who knows, you might actually end up making films about the environment and about environmental degradation or about deforestation or about a social movement that's coming together. So we've had in Bangalore itself climate change kind of movement that's happened with very young students. So someone might decide to film it. So so you could do environmental science as a minor and choose whichever courses. So you don't, even if you feel that you don't want to take the courses that are bent towards the sciences, you can take those that are bent towards either the social sciences or the arts, the writing ones, the documenting the environment, the one on sustainable food and agriculture, sustainable development, or even just to understand climate change. And that's something that's, in fact, we are trying to include it within the foundations, but we'll only be able to do so much in the foundation. So if you take a course on climate change and society, that really gives you, say you want to do later, you want to go on and make films about climate change. So as a film studies major, you do a minor in environmental science with a couple of courses that are very relevant and topical. And then you go on to become an environmental filmmaker or an environmental journalist. So that's a career trajectory, for example.
Thank you,
Ma'am,
Yes.
Nandana has a question. So she
Yeah.
says, is the course more book study oriented or hands-on work oriented?
It's actually a mix of everything. So we will be reading, we'll also be going out on field and, collecting samples, say on, to study pollution, water pollution or any of those. We'll come back, bring them back to the lab, actually study them, measure the kind of pollution that we see. We might be involved in, say, even very kind of community activities like counting the sparrows in your neighborhood. And there are actually groups in Bangalore who do this. So it's not something that we have to start from scratch. There is already an existing, this is the advantage of doing it in Bangalore, that in Bangalore we already have certain movements that are already underway. People are doing these things. We will engage with them and we'll try and we're also, you'll all be students in the group, so it's a great opportunity for any kind of group to also, say you want to do a census of sparrows or you want to do a tree counting venture. All those are things that we'll do within the environmental sciences degree. So it's going to be very hands-on as well. And then we do mapping. So if you're interested in GIS mapping, remote sensing and GIS mapping, so we'll have computer labs to do those aspects of it as well. And with, you can pick and choose all of these skills, and then you decide how you want to use it. So you might want to do the census and then put it on a map and say, okay, this is the distribution of sparrows in the city. These neighborhoods have more and these have less. And then we ask why. And then we go and try and understand. We ask people, we talk to people. So it's no environmental study is without people. So that's something fundamental to how we understand the environment at RV. So the environment is not just about nature, it's about humans in nature. So maybe that answers your question, Nandana.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am. Can you please tell, I'm sorry, I was a little late to join. So could you please tell what is the combination of psychology? You just mentioned psychology with this thing. Is it possible to combine environmental science with psychology?
Absolutely. You can combine, if you decide to do environmental science as a major and combine it with psychology as a minor, or would you like to do psychology as a major and combine
psychology as a major and this thing?
Environmental science as a minor. That's absolutely a possibility. And in fact, it's a very good combination because, there are a lot of people who now consider the environment as a very important part of counseling and therapy itself. So, gazing at trees, gazing at greenery is an important part of it. So studying some aspects of the environment could be really influential. Now, these are obviously futures that it's beyond one person to even tell you. So it's not something even I as a teacher can tell you, but from my limited understanding, I can tell you that yes, within psychology itself, there is a movement towards using nature as a way of healing. And maybe the environmental sciences minor will actually help you explore that in greater detail.
Next question.
I had another question.
Nandana, yeah.
Yeah, regarding the difference between the course material if environmental science was your major or minor.
So the difference is actually in the number of courses that you do. So suppose you take actually Dr. Piyush Roy will be able to tell you the exact numbers. So to fulfill the major, you have to do a certain number of credits. And then for the minors, you would do, say, so if in the majors you are doing 13 courses, so if you choose the environmental sciences, you will do 13 courses as your majors and about 6 courses from another discipline as your minors. So say you were choosing film studies as your major, your 13 main courses across the 3 years will be from film studies. And then in your second year, primarily, you will have the option to explore your minors, and 6 courses will be from environmental science. And you get a choice, so you can choose which courses you want to do. You don't have to say you don't want to do the science courses, you don't have to do it, but say, I want to do the science courses. I want to learn data science so that I can later become a data scientist. So then you can choose the data science courses. You can even choose from the School of Economics and Finance. Say you want to do a bit of business and marketing and finance. You can choose some of those courses. You can also choose from the School of Design. For example, landscaping is a huge career option. So even in Bangalore, if you see a number of office spaces and a number of apartment complexes, they have landscape architects to do the kind of the greening of the campus. Even our own campus, for instance, I'm pretty sure the RV University campus itself has had some landscape architect to look at it and to see how much greenery we will have, what kind of greenery we'll have. So those are all options which, if you mix and match your majors and minors from the schools, these are career options that you can branch out into, which technically all of us, when we were studying, we had to figure it out on our own. Now the liberal education program really gives you that platter to choose from. So it's, in that way, it's a really good thing.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
If I may ask you another question, from the point of view of as an applicant, and if I'm interested in studying environmental science with you, another thing that not exactly concerns me, but that does interest me, is the campus. I haven't got an entire feel of the campus from the website yet, but I was wondering, like, are there prospects of us doing these projects on the campus and immersing ourselves in the campus, growing? And I just wanted to understand, like, a little bit about your campus and what it would mean as an environmental science student too.
You mean actually getting a patch of land to cultivate something on the campus? We could ask for it,
There's so many possibilities. So
Yeah.
what would the relationship be with the students and the land, and yeah, that I don't know if you understand my question. I hope I put it across.
Yeah, so I think the campus also just borders the Vrishabhavati river. So we actually oversee it. So in fact, I'm pretty sure we will be collecting samples from there. So part of our work will involve the river outside, the trees in the campus. And we might also ask, as you suggested, we might ask for a patch of land if we want to do, or we might have a greenhouse or something like that. And those are possibilities. We can explore those. So we will try to have as many hands-on, and the campus is not a limitation in any way. We can go out into the city, because it's also a way of knowing more about your city. And we are on the Mysore road, so we are not very far from rural areas either. So we are almost in Kengeri where the campus is. So we are very close to rural areas. I myself have studied some of those rural areas, so we can always organize visits to rural areas. And thinking back, I just feel that I finally, even though my PhD is in agrarian studies, and I looked at rural migration and those kind of aspects, I first went to a village only after my master's. And here there's an opportunity where many of you will be, will be having this kind of exposure right at your undergraduate level. It's truly a great opportunity.
Thank you, Peter.
Perhaps, if I can just come in here, I mean, I did listen to the practical aspect of it that you have planned, but maybe you could give the students some idea about, what could possibly be a proportion of that. Will it be 50% hands-on, 50% theory, or, what component kind of a breakup they can expect? And I understand there will be a year 2 and a year 3. So perhaps you could tell them something about their pathways, when they go from a year 2 to the year 3, what the level of study, how it goes, or which areas you would be perhaps looking at for specialization. I think that could be something that you could share.
So as you all know, the first year will have the foundation courses, which are very diverse. So like sir has already mentioned, they are aimed to give you the 360-degree education. Within that, we do have an environment development and climate change foundation as well. So for those who don't major in the environment, they also go through an environment development and climate change foundation course. And that course itself uses a diverse kind of pedagogies, including films. So we have, say, films on the Chipko movement. You might have read recent news on the Chipko movement in the newspapers. So you'll have sessions which use films as well, and you have sessions which go to the field, sessions which are more practical. So read the newspaper and identify environmental news every day and make a scrapbook and then try and organize it in different themes, maybe across the course, those kind of things. So we might do all kinds of practical work. It need not just be in a lab as such. Over the second year is when you actually explore minors. So suppose you're doing your major in environmental science. Let me just give you an example. So you would do courses which are Introduction to Ecology and Evolution, which is primarily a biology course. You would do Biodiversity and Conservation, which is also a biology, environment, ecology kind of course. Then you would do Sustainable Food and Agriculture, which is at the interface of food and agriculture, as you know. So agriculture is not just about the land, but it's also about the people who cultivate the land. So this is a more human environment interface kind of course. You do these three courses in the third semester. So this is the second year, third semester. And meanwhile, you're doing your minors in psychology, or minors in physics, or minors in film studies. It will be another 3 courses, which will be your minors. And then in the next semester, fourth semester, say you will do courses on globalization, poverty, and pollution. And this course particularly will have lab work. So we will have ways of measuring noise pollution, ways of measuring air pollution, water pollution, all of these in the lab. And we will try and combine it with collection of samples from the field so that it's actually real world examples. Then we'll have courses on a course on environmental justice and ethics. We have a course on documenting the environment, which gives you the creative edge, because now, as Sir said, everything is videos and on YouTube, on Instagram. So, if you can make good videos about the environment, it can really have impact. So this is a course which really helps you do that. With all the other courses you have learned, you try and apply it by making films, actually taking photographs, writing, and then actually trying to analyze these, what went well, what went wrong. Meanwhile, you're also doing another set of 3 courses in your minor. So say you're doing your minor in psychology, it'll be 3 courses there with the psychology department. And then in the third year, both the 5th and 6th semester, you focus yourself in the environmental science courses alone. So there you don't deviate into the minors, you immerse yourself in the majors. So say, for example, you have a course on energy and environment, which is primarily a physics-oriented course. So it's a course which looks at renewable energy of various kinds, nuclear, solar, all those kinds of energy, and the kinds of transitions that are required for a developing country to use more and more of those kinds of energy. Then we'll do a course on data science and statistics, for instance. So that's again a course with mathematicians and with physicists that we would have. And then a course which is an introduction to political ecology, which is actually trying to understand who wins and who loses when anything happens. So say an environmental project is coming up on the Western Ghats. Who is impacted by it? What is the scale at which impact takes place? Is it only at the local level, or can impacts also be at global levels? So we try and understand that in a political ecology course. And then you have a course on climate change and society, which is actually looking at various concepts within climate change adaptation, which is a huge and growing literature. I have myself written and worked on some of those areas in my previous work. So we will look at some of those aspects. And as you all know, we have international organizations now which meet, various nations meet, and there are commitments that are made with how we are going to address the issue of climate change. because we are currently at global warming of almost we are going to pass 1.5 degrees Celsius post the Industrial Revolution, which is post 1945. And this really has impact on a huge number of things, both on our food itself, because the way in which crops grow, the temperature at which, say wheat or rice is grown, if the temperatures are very high, if it's a very hot region, you cannot get maximum productivity out of land. So it really depresses productivity at various levels. So these are all issues with global warming, and we will address all of those in the climate change and society course. And then we go on in the 6th semester to a course on sustainable development, a course on environmental economics. So we study concepts of degrowth, which are currently again in vogue. A lot of people are writing about it. And we look at conservation and society. So what happens when you think of conservation, when you think of a national park, say the Corbett National Park, or any other parks that you might have gone to, Ranthambore Sanctuary or any of those, we only think of it in terms of conservation of the animals that live within them, the conservation of the tiger or the conservation of certain endangered species. So the course on conservation and society is looking at, again, the human ecology interface, which is what happens to people who live within those natural regions. So people who live within forests, people who live, say, people who live in within sanctuaries, within national parks, who often are relocated for the parks to become these sanctuaries which are closed and gated only for nature. So what happens to these? So there's a huge amount of work that's been done, again, by sociologists and anthropologists in this area. So this is again an aspect of it that we will look at in this course. So these are the kinds of courses that we'll do across the 3 years. I hope this gives you an idea.
So Samriti had a question. I would like to know if I major in psychology, are the minors same as you told us?
The minors, you get to choose between, so I've listed 13 course names, course titles within the environmental science major. If you choose it as a minor, you choose 6 of those. So you decide which one to pick, which one to drop. That's how it goes. And that choice is yours, entirely yours. Vrishali?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying something? You have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I want to know, means I'm a bit confused. If I want to do clinical psychologist, then what are the majors and minors? Means what are the subject I should choose in BSc psychology?
So there will be another session on the psychology major itself at a later point. So there will be a set of courses that you would do within psychology, which fulfill your the fact that you have done a major in psychology. You've done a set number of courses to graduate in psychology. Along with that, you can also take minors depending on what interests you. Say you're interested in psychology. What are you interested in, Vrishali?
I'm interested in clinical psychology, means a human and health behavior.
Right. And among any other subjects which are fascinating for you?
Biology.
Okay, so then you can choose environmental science as your minor, and then you can choose the courses that are oriented towards biology within that. So you can take psychology majors, and you can choose ecology and evolution, biodiversity and conservation. If you want to learn some data science, statistics, you can choose that, because that will also help you in psychology. And I'm sure psychology courses will also have statistics and data sciences. So you can combine the kinds of courses you want to do with environmental science. And I would suggest you do climate change as well, because it's an important basic course to understand if you're taking a minor in environmental science today.
Thank you so much.
All right, any other question?
Maybe, but before we wrap up, perhaps I would request Professor Soundarya. She's been doing some very exciting work through the pandemic, and she's been on the field and her and collaborating with villagers, with experts from abroad and all. Perhaps you could share something of that, just as a sign of. We began the session with your own interest in environmental science. Perhaps you could wrap it up with your own ongoing work, something, just so that it opens up our own horizons at looking at this subject and the possibilities that are there. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pierce. That's a very good question. In fact, some of my ongoing work is linked very much to the environmental science degree. So one of the pieces I'm writing, and hopefully if you look me up after a few weeks, you'll see it. It'll be out. It's a popular piece, 2 pieces, which in fact, some students who are working with me, they have written. One is on looking at the entry age of women, young women, so young adolescent girls into work in rural Tamil Nadu. So right out after school, a lot of young girls in the garment cluster of Tirupur, they enter these factories for work. So that's one aspect of it. Related to that is another piece we are writing, which is on the health issues that people face when they work in these industries. Now that is a it's linked to the environment issue. So we have issues relating to so people work in power looms in the villages itself. And these power looms are machines where, like cotton thread is woven into cloth. And the machines are extremely loud, and there's a small number of people working with 20-30 machines in a large room, and they're extremely loud and they cause a lot of noise pollution to people. The other thing is that the fibers of cotton, very, very fine fibers of cotton, they actually hamper people's breathing. People develop all kinds of allergies. Some of these are non-allergic issues. So you'll get persistent sneezing and all kinds of issues, which there are really no solutions for other than not working in those factories. So even the kinds of medicines doctors give you are very limited in the kind of those are things that we are interested in our work. We are trying to understand the context in which people are working. How is this transition taking place? So these are all rural people who are working in agriculture even until 20 years ago. And now with industries coming up, a whole garment sector being available in Tamil Nadu, they're now moving into these factories and the kinds of lifestyle changes that are occurring with that. So that's my part of my current work. This is actually Professor Nitya Rao's field site in Tamil Nadu. My field site is in Karnataka, very close to the RV campus. In fact, it's just a drive away from the RV campus. And that site is still primarily agricultural. So people still cultivate rice, cultivate sugarcane. They also have sericulture and dairying, horticulture. And many of them have moved to horticultural crops because now they're very profitable. You can sell the vegetables. You can sell baby corn in Bangalore. Even until 7 years ago, when I did my PhD, baby corn was not a crop that was being grown. But within 7 years, I've revisited the village after 7 years. Now baby corn is being grown. And obviously, growing some of these crops involves a certain use of fertilizers and pesticides, which again links up to the environment. So what does it do to the soil? What does it do to fertility of the soil? What does it do to people itself? And you will come across some of these. There are other groups in Bangalore which have done excellent work on the water in Vrishabhavati, which is right next to RV, how it's got polluted with the sewage of the industries and of household waste that have gone into the rivers. And these rivers downstream go into the villages, which are close to Bangalore. And people are using the water to cultivate. They're actually nutrient rich because nitrogen rich because of the wastes that are in the water. And they're used by people to cultivate horticultural crops, which are again cycled back into Bangalore. And we're eating some of those crops. some of the vegetables and fruits that are coming back into Bangalore. So a number of people call this metabolism, so social metabolism almost. So it's almost like whatever is being, so as a society, what we produce is recycled and it comes back to us through different routes. So all of this links to the environment. We study it, and I study it myself, other groups study it. We will look at all of this in class. We'll have live examples in Bangalore to study these issues. So I hope these are exciting for you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Any questions anybody has, or are we good to wrap up? Till we meet again with the next series, we will be informing you all. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming and for asking your interesting questions. I enjoyed answering them.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody, for joining for this
Thank you.
session. We'll connect again, same time next week with a different topic.